of the Carmel-by-the-Sea Planning Commission together. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Bolton,
Here.
Commissioner Delves, Commissioner Locke. Here. Chair LePage.
Here. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody here today. We got a little break in the weather before the next blast of rain. Okay. Commissioner Delves is not with us. He's traveling. He was going to try to join us, but I guess he couldn't make it. So, are we doing the Pledge of Allegiance?
It's up to you, Mr. Chair.
I think I'll pass on that. Okay, public appearances. So any member of the public can address the Planning Commission at this time about any matters which are not on our agenda tonight. Anything that you bring up will not be discussed tonight, but it could be put on agenda at a later date for discussion. So anybody that would like to speak to the Planning Commission about anything which is not on our agenda at this time, they can come up to the podium and speak to us. Don't see anybody in the audience. Do we have any hands up or online? Okay, I don't see anybody, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Next item on our agenda, announcements. I believe Commissioner Allen has an announcement she'd like to make.
Yes, I would like to wish everyone a happy International Women's Day, and I would also like to recognize the significant role that women have played in Carmel's history. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, any other announcements? Anybody? Okay. Any members of the audience have any announcements? All right, thank you. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda tonight. It's the monthly activity report from the building department. Any members of the audience or members of the commissioners can have any item pulled for discussion or questions? Okay, in that case, I'll make a motion that we accept the monthly activity report.
I can second that, please.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke. Yes. Chair LePage.
Yes, motion is carried.
Oh.
Commissioner Delves to engage.
Oh, he is there. Yeah. Oh.
Commissioner, okay, welcome Commissioner Delves. So let the record show that Commissioner Delves is here. You want to just speak up so we know you're not a bot?
I am not a bot. This is Bob.
Check
Thanks
that
for
box,
dealing
I'm
with
not a
my-
robot.
I am not a robot.
Thank you, it's good to see you. All
Thank
right. Okay, we don't have any orders of business tonight. I don't see any on the agenda. And so that brings us to the public hearings. Okay, we have 4 items tonight. Just a quick reminder, the public hearings, the order is staff will present their report. Commission will ask questions. At that time, we'll be opening it to the public. The applicant will have 5 minutes to make their presentation, and the public will have 3 minutes to make their comments. At the discretion of the chair, rebuttal time shall be granted. Okay, the first item on the public hearing tonight is a design study. This is DS 22315. It's the Dearborn project. This is the consideration of the final design study for this project, and it is an addition, remodel and addition of 310 square feet, second story addition to an existing 1,336 square foot single story, single family residence, and it's on Dolores 4 southwest of 10th. Can we have staff report, please?
This is going to be the final study for the Dearborn study, design study. Thank you. And it is quick background. This project just sits on a 4,000 square foot lot, and the existing house is about approximately 1,500 square foot, and it has a 216 square foot detached carport. And the applicant is proposing a 310 square foot second story addition, along with the 200 square foot detached garage. The concept hearing was heard by the Planning Commission on January 11th, and some of the key draft conditions were the stone veneer on the front elevation, and the applicant has removed the stone veneer and is proposing just vertical cedar plank throughout. Another draft condition was the roof material, and the draft condition states that the applicant shall submit other form of metal roof that mimic wood shingle roof that is non-reflective and has a matte finish. And the applicant has provided a shake-style aluminum roof with Tudor brown. However, the proposed shake-style roof does not have the matte finish, nor does it. It's not non-reflective, and additionally, the aluminum has, as a material, does not comply with the Residential Design Guideline 9.6, which states to avoid the use of synthetic material. Also, it discourages vinyl and aluminum. The design guideline also states that some new materials may be considered only if they convey a scale and texture similar to that of traditional material. But however, the proposed shake-style aluminum roof is not substantive in its construction and does not have the scale and texture similar to that of traditional material. Considering that, the staff is not supportive of the aluminum roof because it does not meet the residential design guideline, nor does it meet the draft condition. And so special condition number 33 requires that prior to building permit issuance, the applicant shall work with the staff to select an alternative roof material that conveys texture similar to wood shake roof and that complies with the residential design guidelines. In terms of the final detail for windows and doors, the applicant is proposing an aluminum-clad wood window with divided light throughout, and it would be in regal brown. And the exterior doors would be wood, and the garage would be also in wood with Newburyport blue color. And in terms of landscape, the city forester has approved the landscape plan, and the city forester has recommended planting one upper canopy tree, and the applicant is proposing to plant two upper canopy trees, and both will be Monterey pine. In terms of exterior lights, the applicant is proposing 4 exterior light fixtures in 2 different styles, and that is Hampton Bay as well as World Imports, and both would be shielded and downlight fixtures with about 150 lumen output. In terms of fence, at the front setback, there'll be a 4-foot height redwood grapestake fence, and for the north, south, and west elevation, there'll be a 6-foot high redwood fence. And other finishing details, the applicant is proposing vertical cedar siding in Newburyport blue and shake-style aluminum roof in Tudor brown. And staff recommends the adoption of the resolution approving the final design with conditions. And this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for staff?
Thanks.
Commissioners? No questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, would the applicant like to come forward and make their presentation?
Good afternoon. I'm Claudio Ortiz. I'm representing John and Danielle Dearborn on this project. I want to start by briefly, I only have 5 minutes. I'm going to try to make it quick and try to get to the point. But so we made the changes that staff recommended in the Planning Commission. So we changed the roof material to a metal shake. And we also got rid of the stone veneer as suggested to simplify the front facade and the character of the structure. With that said, I think the most critical element we have here to discuss is the metal roof. Staff is not recommending approval of the material that we're proposing. I put together a small PDF. I don't know if you guys got a chance to review it or had a chance to see it. If I can pass it really quickly to you guys, just briefly.
Yeah, go ahead and hand it out. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Claudia.
Thank you. So I'm not going to go in full detail with everything that I wrote. I just want to at least bring up a few points. So, for starters, the guideline that staff is reflecting on is Residential Guideline 9.6 that talks about vinyl or aluminum siding, for example, is discouraged. However, some new materials may be considered only if they convey a scale and texture similar to that of traditional materials. So just by analyzing that aspect right there, what we're proposing is material that's similar in character and scale to what this guideline is suggesting. The material that we're proposing is a shake roof, as the commissioners and staff recommended us to proceed with, and that's what we submitted. So another point that I'm going to jump into right away is the material itself is aluminum, and staff is saying that aluminum is not an appropriate material to use. However, you have to analyze from this point of view. The point that the guideline originally had, the intent was to discourage fake man-made materials like vinyls and aluminum for siding and things of that nature. Carmel has approved aluminum-clad windows, keyword aluminum, in the intent that they replicate a wood window. So that material has already been approved and used as a method to symbolize the character of a natural material. And beyond that, what we're proposing is an aluminum material, and I'm showing here different points why aluminum is a better material for roof than the steel material that staff is recommending. In coastal areas, we actually consulted with a consultant to do our homework. So we spent 6-8 weeks analyzing all of this. So we're trying to propose something in front of you that is not just something we just came up with. We did quite a bit of homework on this. But the aluminum material is a much better material near coastal zones. And all these materials that are being proposed nowadays, all these metal roofs, eventually they will decay and they'll be rust. And if they're not maintained, if the clients don't change them, then we're going to have very ugly roofs in the city of Carmel. And aluminum is a much better material. I did a project on Scenic that the house was there for 20-something, 30-something years. And the day we demolished the house, the aluminum windows that were there, they were practically intact. And this house was practically not even 100 feet away from the ocean. So I know that aluminum is going to be a much better material for this purpose. And I would hope that staff and the commissioners will see that and accept aluminum as a material for the application of a roof in the coastal zone. In addition to that, staff talks about the fact that the material we're proposing is not in scale. Well, also staff is recommending and gave a couple of other materials for us to consider. One of them is called DECRA. DECRA we actually looked at and we studied, and I have photos of it on my report there. I actually put it on side by side, studied it, and analyzed it. And DECRA is a material that is much larger in scale than what we're proposing. So in a sense, that contradicts the scale that they're commenting on. And it's also a steel-made material, which is not warranted to be installed in this area. We talked to the reps, and they're not going to warranty that roof. So aside from that, the other element that staff is bringing up is the fact that I know that commissioners and you guys brought up the fact that you wanted a roof to be matte and finish. Well, there's not many metal matte roofs available to start with. And also, it's not so important that the material is a matte finish, but the reflectiveness of it. There's a guide used to actually understand what the reflectiveness is on that roof. And the material that we're proposing actually has an SRI of 22, which is a very low index. The materials that staff recommended, the DECRA, actually has a 25 index, which is much higher. So what I'm trying to demonstrate here is to show that we did our homework, that we're proposing a material that meets the criteria not only for in character, but also a material that will last, and also a material that meets the reflectiveness. I also demonstrated on my packet that even all materials have some sort of reflectiveness to it. Even when you put a brand new wood shake roof, I don't know if you noticed that, they're very reflective, they're very shiny, the sheen is apparent. With time, they get more opaque and they fade. And I provided a photo to demonstrate that on a house that was recently done in Carmel. And you can see how that sheen is still active on that roof. It will definitely, with time, fade. But I also demonstrated on my report that there are some metal roofs that actually have faded in time. So going forward, I think using a method like the SRI as an index, as a method to understand what the roof will react and look like in the future, not now, is a better gauge, to judge that material. And when you buy anything brand new, when you pull it out of the box, it's going to have a sheen to it. Just like when you buy your car and it's brand new and the paint looks amazing the first year, 3-4 years down the road, even though it looks great, still not the same from day one. It's still a little bit faded. And those paints are designed for maintaining the quality. But on roofs, you'll see the difference. You'll see that 2-3-year-old roof will fade with time. And in my photo, I demonstrated that. So I'm hoping that you guys will take this information, that we did our due diligence, we did our homework, we analyzed existing roofs throughout the city, we analyzed roofs that were approved by the city, and we consulted with experts to guide us in the proper materials to use, because it's not only the material that needs to meet the character and the material that needs to meet the reflectiveness, but it also has to be a material that is durable. These materials are not cheap. They're very expensive. And if you put something out of steel that will corrode and somebody doesn't change it, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you're going to see a city with metal roofs that are corroding that are not going to look good. And I think what we're trying to propose and trying to bring to light here is that there are better materials that will last a long, long time. And I believe that's the purpose of proposing these materials, is that durability that we expect from them. So with that said, I don't want to take too much of my time. I know that my client also has some points that she would like to bring up too. And I would hope that you see that we did our homework. I would hope that you would agree with the product that we're providing, because I think meets the criteria, the character. The city has already approved aluminum as a material in the past. I think we meet all the quotas. And if I'm incorrect, I would like to, I'm willing to work with additional options, materials, but I think we hit a really good, provided a really good material for the application that we're seeking. Thank you.
Questions for Claudio? Okay.
Claudio, we saw this material in the field.
Okay.
The gauge appears to be, try this again. I saw this material in the field.
Mm-hmm.
The gauge appears to be not exceptionally thick. And I'm wondering how you're going to deal with deflection and damage from pine cones, for instance, when they fall on this roof. What's the underlayment for this aluminum roof, and how will it support the roof thoroughly enough that you won't dent?
So it's an aluminum, so it's a little bit more flexible than steel to start with, right? And it will have a 40-pound mineral felt paper underneath it, so it's a durable material. That's practically a roof. That's exactly what we put in the wood shake roof. So the application will be, the assembly will be exactly the same in that scenario. So when it comes to that scenario, they're equal. On the fact that they're gonna dent if a pine falls on top of it, the other aspect of that, yes, they will have probably a little dents here and there, but also it's what's going to bring the character of this roof to take them away from the monotonous of the same delineation that it has. By aging and things falling on it and denting it, it will provide that character you see on a wood roof, which is these ungulated movement, unevenness that you'd expect from a natural roof. And I think that, in essence, will provide a better character than a roof that stays, linear, doesn't change, and it's going to look man-made. So I don't think that's going to hurt the appearance of the roof. That's probably something more up to the client to decide, is this something that I really want? But in character or in appearance or aesthetics, I don't think it's going to make a difference. In fact, I think it might make it even more attractive. It's almost like, it's just having that age look to material, which is what we're trying to convey.
No, that's fine. You answered my question. That's perfect. I appreciate it.
Questions for Claudio? Commissioner Delves, do you have any questions, or I can't see them? Okay. I had a couple questions, Claudio. So this last page, that's a different product you're showing us?
That's the DECRA that staff recommended.
That's what?
It's called DECRA.
Yeah.
And it's a steel metal roof, and it has an asphalt overlayment. And the problem with that is the steel will rust with time.
So this is steel, and it's got an applied texturized mineral on it?
Right.
Okay, that's what I just was curious what that was.
And also, if you look at that one, the SRI is 25, which is higher than what we're proposing.
Huh, that's interesting.
Well, because what you're looking at is a brand new roof. So obviously, like I said before, when you open out of the box, it's nice and shiny and looks great, but it will fade with time. So I don't think going forward we should be judging the material, at first glance out of a box.
Yeah, well, that's fine. The other thing, I was just curious, why did you decide to go with this particular roof rather than some of the other roofs, simulated shakes that you've used on some of your other projects? I know in the past you've used I think you used a concrete shake on one of your projects, and it actually looked pretty good as far as the
Right.
simulated shake. I was just curious why you,
Weight.
oh, the weight, okay.
Those are extremely heavy.
Right,
And
but they're
then-
they're lightweight concrete, and they're rated for standard,
Right.
I mean,
And that was a brand new home we did, and where we used that material, so we had the opportunity to build the substantial footings for it. This is a remodel.
so
and
you
it'll be
don't
this-
feel you have the structural capacity to
No, we don't.
support
In
the.
fact, I'm going to the extent of providing a very thin floor system in order to meet my height limits. So I'm taking a lot of load, dispersing them to the perimeter walls and so on. So this project is a little bit more complicated, and that's why we have to use a
So,
modern material.
does this company make like a shingle that doesn't have the texture of a shake too, or,
Which one? The Decra or the one we're proposing?
well, the one you're proposing, the
The
company?
one, they do have a shingle option.
Because we've seen some that came through here that just, they were just flat, but they have a butt. So, and it's straight, and it looks like rows of shingles.
This one does too.
Pardon?
I have a sample here if you want to see it.
Yeah, we saw that, but
Yeah,
it's textured. It's got, it's got a texture that's put on it.
Right.
Whereas the ones I'm referring to are just flat, they don't,
Oh, right.
they look
No, I
more
think-
like a tiled shingle or something.
Right, and I think that to me looks fake. I'd rather see something with some angulation and
okay.
texture to it. So when you look at it, so when I analyze the roof, I don't put it on a flat 90-degree angle. I actually put them high on an angle like this, and that's how I look at them. And because that gives me a better understanding.
Is there a picture of this that's on a roof because it's kind of, we just see the one piece.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't give us the real effect of what it looks like. It'd be helpful if there was a picture, do they have it on their website or anything? Maybe you could pull that up and you could put that on get that overhead just to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the other roofs we looked at, for example, some that were recommended, if you look at the crevices where supposedly it's supposed to mimic a single shingle, those crevices, when they turn, they look out of, like somebody grabbed paper and twisted them. And it just doesn't look well made. And, and those little details to me were apparent that it's just man-made. Although they did have some sort of detail and angulation to it, it just didn't look proper. This one, out of all the materials that we've seen, it has a very nice appearance, and it looks aesthetically almost true to a wood shake. Other ones were flat and looked almost like a slate. In essence.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're trying to mimic other types of roofing materials, and it's always a challenge.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with this for a number of years now, planning, because we're looking for roofs that are fireproof or and
Right.
because we have this extreme fire danger here in the.
But the other issue that I've been having is finding other roofs that were a shake or a shingle. If you go back and do the research on the SRI, they're all high. They're in 25, some 27, 28, almost 30. This one hit 22 because that was a factor that was brought up at this committee to make sure it's non-reflective, right? So I had that criteria to meet, to look like a shake, to also have the low SRI or reflectiveness to it. Because matte alone does not necessarily mean that it's going to be less reflective. That's a misconception. That's not true.
Yeah.
You have to, if you analyze it, wood shakes, like I was mentioned earlier, when they're brand new, have a lot of reflectiveness to it. So,
Okay, all right. Are there any other questions for Claudio? Okay, thank you, Claudio. All right. So are there members of the public that would like to make comment on this application? We've got a hand up here. Daniel Dearborn, you want to? Danielle,
Hi.
excuse me.
Yes, thank you. My name's Danielle. Thank you, Claudio, and for the commission as well. So as Claudio said, we did, after we came before the commission, we did spend some time, and we were lucky to find ourselves with a consultant who has 40 years experience in the metal roof industry. He's a West Coast-based gentleman, and he's been incredibly helpful. So looking at all the parameters of our project, he recommended interlock for a variety of reasons, many of which Claudio has already presented. I wanted to address a couple things. One is also the interlock, one of the questions was about how thick it was. So interlock makes two products. One is an AL shake, which we proposed. The other is an AL cedar. The AL shake is actually a thicker and hardier option. And so our consultant recommended that over the cedar. The other thing I wanted to point out, and regardless of how the commission decides on our project regarding the metal roof, I would highly recommend this gentleman as a resource, particularly as you said, you know, you're looking for things that are fire rated and whatnot. So this is my first foray into metal roofs, but he's been incredibly helpful, as I said. And the other thing about this, for future homeowners that may come up before the commission, two of the products that were recommended by staff were actually not good for coastal application. Well, particularly the DECRA, which is one that we considered. Generally speaking, because anything within 1 mile of the ocean, it will not be, we wouldn't have a warranty because of the corrosive content of the material. So that's kind of a, you know, a non-starter for us. If we're going to spend this much money, we want something that's going to last. So I would recommend maybe if that type of roof is something that staff would like to, you know, to propose, that maybe something else besides DECRA, because that specifically came up as not a good option. The other thing mentioned is the SRI for Western States. The staff recommended Western States roofing. There was a picture shown, which I don't know if it's misleading, because, you know, you move things in a picture and light looks different, right, as Claudio pointed out. But the SRI for Western States, which was recommended by staff, is actually higher than ours. We have the one that we recommended is a pretty neutral color and also has the lowest SRI of all of the roofs that have been proposed. So that's the end of what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, we're kind of frantically searching here for images of, yeah, just like to see a.
I did put something in the chat, so I tried to link it. Hopefully it works.
Sebastian, can you flip over to the screen for us? We do have we can put up their Interlock website. Thank you.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah.
If I might make another point, as you look at the website, the photos, you know, the photos there are
Zoom out a little.
Are it's designed to show as much roof as possible. I don't love that look personally, and if you can look at our design, we don't have a straight on look of any of this. There's a lot of nuances to our roof, and so it's going. I think it would look very classy personally. So just keep that in mind, please.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, I don't see anybody. Any hands going up online there? See anybody? Okay, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments.
Mr. Chair, could I make a couple staff comments
absolutely.
just coming out of the presentations? So I did want to address a couple of things, because we do try to be as consistent as we can. And you know, Mr. Ortiz pointed out a couple of things about aluminum being discouraged, and that's true. You know, as we navigate our design guidelines at the staff level, and ultimately when we come to you, that's where we start. We start from aluminum is discouraged. Things like aluminum clad windows, those have been approved in the past because you start with discouraged, and then it gives you this additional language to build off of. New materials considered if they convey the scale and texture similar to traditional materials. So the aluminum clad windows are a great example of that. The aluminum was approved because the way that it molds to the wood, you literally can't tell that it's not wood. So we start from discouraged and then we move to that. So that's, you know, that was the staff analysis stepping through this. Yes, we recognize that our code says discouraged, and we recognize that aluminum has been approved or metal has been approved in certain circumstances. But our analysis of this is that the proposed roof, aluminum roof, does not convey a scale and texture similar to of a traditional material, which is trying to emulate, which is a shake roof. And that's how we got there. So I wanted to kind of just clarify that. One other piece of information just to share with you. You know, we've talked about this a couple of times to this commission, and I suppose we should probably do something more technical at some point because it's complicated, but SRI is not the end-all be-all of how shiny something is. It's actually the solar reflectance index, and it's a measure of the ability or the propensity for a roof to reflect solar energy back up. It deals with cool roofs and hot roofs and things like that. So it's a measure that's used in conjunction with things like the paint color. It's not the end all be all. It certainly does matter when you think about reflectivity, but it doesn't tell you point blank number to number if it's a reflective roof or not. That's why you see those weird things, like a darker roof maybe has a higher SRI because, as we all know, dark colors get hotter and reflect more heat. So that's just something to consider too. That's not a standalone factor that we're using.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. That's helpful. All right, going to open this up to the commission. Commissioner Bolton, you want to jump in?
Yeah, it seems to me the only thing worth discussing on this project, really, from my point of view, is this roof. I think I can accept the rest of the project as submitted. I appreciate the changes, and I do appreciate all the work that the owner and the architect put into trying to find a better roof. The comments about the material itself, the aluminum, are well taken. The fact that we are moving into a new world with materials may mean that we'll be considering more aluminum and other metals in the future. Right now, the code doesn't support it, but we're in the middle of rewriting this exact thing. And this is one of the reasons we're doing this rewrite, is to get language into our documents basically saying that, giving us the flexibility to accept these kinds of roofs, right? And so, while I don't object to the concept of aluminum as a material, I object to this aluminum roof. First of all, my comment stands about the denting. I disagree that we'll gain character from damage. It's going to look dented in my mind, but that's just an opinion on that. More importantly, I find that staff did an excellent job with their analysis, and this does not, in my mind, look like a shake roof. It looks like a metal roof, and these images on the website, and I looked at them prior to this independently, really reinforce that feeling. Very strong coarse lines, very, very, very like almost industrial look. It's like a tract house look. It's like, I wouldn't want compo roofs to look like this bad either. It's not just the material. I just don't like the way this roof looks. I think it's a poor roof. I don't like the texture, and I don't like how it's laid. I don't think you get the movement that you get from natural shake when you put this roof up. I understand why we can't do actual shake. I'm not suggesting it. I just don't support this roof, and I think the staff analysis is correct. It's pretty simple.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Allen, your comments?
Very similar. I really appreciate the changes that were made in the design and how you simplified the design. I think it looks fantastic. Initially, I was going to say, like, wow, what a beautiful roof, maybe slate or shingle would be on this, but I guess I didn't realize the weight was such an issue. And so, but I can't approve this specific product. It felt and looked cheap to me, and you may be spending a lot of money. I have no idea, but it just doesn't feel. It doesn't have that feeling.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Locke?
First of all, I want to thank you, Claudia, for proceeding with looking at different textures and whatnot. I think it's important to get away from the standing seam metal roofs. I am kind of mixed on this. I think that Commissioner Bolton's comments earlier about kind of a new, where we're headed for the future in building and insurance and fire, all is going to affect the materials that are used for building in our village. And I also think that these metal roofs are energy efficient, they're sustainable, they're not petroleum products. They are something that we need to move forward with. And the concept of our coastal climate and rust that will affect steel certainly has to be considered. And so I think aluminum may be where we're headed, and the design guidelines are currently under review. So I'm not closing my mind to any of that at this point. I think that, as my fellow commissioners have stated, the look of the shake is, it's clearly not, doesn't differentiate between one shake and another. And I think that's kind of the only real big issue, plus the fact that it undulates as it does with a metal base, provides more reflectivity than would be seen if it wasn't a metal base. I also believe that, Claudia, what you've said was true, that as time goes by, that metal will age, it will lose its luster, it will become something that perhaps has more of a natural look to it. And when I say I'm mixed about this, I'm kind of curious because since we don't have anything like this, it would be nice to actually have an example to see what happens with that type of material. On the other hand, I'm going to say that there are some other options, and again, I'm moving from standing seam. I want to see something else. The shingle option may be something that could be considered. I'm hearing from my fellow commissioners that the shake is maybe not appropriate for this particular case. But I think you have to look to the guidelines similar to a natural element doesn't necessarily have a definition. And again, as we move forward into our future with this crazy climate we're going to deal with, we have to think about what kinds of things will look natural in the sense of how we go forward, because we can't continue to use wood products as our roofs and that kind of thing. So, I think that the Dearborns are kind of in a interesting conundrum on this, and so I'd like to hear what our chair has to say.
Well, I'm going to ask Commissioner Dells for his comments before we hear from me.
That's right. I forgot.
So, Commissioner Dells, do you want to?
I do. Yeah, I'm going to echo what Commissioner Locke just said, and Claudia, thank you for the education. And I think I'm in a similar position to Commissioner Locke in that we need to move forward. I think what the other commissioners have said is that aluminum looks like it's a path. It has been for windows. It needs to be for roofing. Unfortunately, due to my own circumstances, I was not in the field today to be able to see the sample. I did go to the website and look at those photos, and I just saw them again, and those were not convincing for me. They did not look. It did not look like a natural shake roof. And while I accept the argument that that roof will patina over time with weather and salt and pine cones and hail, I don't have evidence of that. And so the suggestion of a catch-22, I think, is accurate. So I do need to hear from our chairman and see where you're at. I would be, I can be a third vote to support this because I'm allowing the interest of moving forward and finding new solutions to be very important, and also putting trust in an architect that has been working in Carmel for a long time and doing a really good job and having done their homework.
Thank you, Commissioner Delps.
Yeah.
I really appreciate all the work you've done on this, Claudia, and I really appreciate where the owner is, and I'm definitely of the mind that what my other commissioners have stated, that wood roofs are really becoming a thing of the past for this community and in general too. There's just too much fire danger associated with them. So we're in a position where we're trying to find a roof material which has been a defining character of this community, wood roofs, and that's what makes it hard. And I think, the scope of what the Planning Commission really does here is we're just trying to really make an aesthetic decision based upon what's being presented to us. And as you read from staff's report, they talk about the scale and texture. And that basically it leads to authenticity. And clearly this product does not meet the authenticity requirement or policy goal. Now, I think it's a little unfair to set the bar that high on a lot of these materials. But unfortunately, I think staff is correct in their review of this and their findings, and that is it does not meet the scale and the texture of the material that it's trying to emulate, which is a wood shake. And what I saw, the sample, I saw that right away. There's just too much repetitive type of stamping of the material. And when I saw the photographs online, you see that right away. The other thing I noticed, and you've addressed this, you're saying it's going to age, but because of the texture, it creates more vertical reflective surfaces, and it seems to be much more reflective. Now that may fade over time, but I don't know what the timeline on that is. But I think in the photos that I've seen and the sample, that is going to be an issue for some time with this material. So I'm in agreement with staff. I think staff has made the correct findings and the correct interpretation of our guidelines with regards to this type of roofing material. So I think we should support the resolution as presented to us by staff with the special conditions, of which there are 3, and regarding the roof material, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall work with staff to select an alternative roof material that conveys the scale and texture similar to wood shake roof that complies with the residential design guidelines and has a matte finish and is non-reflective. Samples shall be submitted to the planning department approval. My only question about this particular special condition, and this is a question for staff, is are we limiting this just to something that conveys the texture and scale of wood shake, or are they free to come back with something else that isn't? I mean, I think this is a little bit limited. There's a lot more options that they should be allowed to explore here. So I would make a recommendation that this motion be made with the change to condition number 3, that the reference to conveys a scale and texture of similar wood shake be removed, and just that it complies with the residential guidelines.
I can do that.
So that would be my recommendation for a motion.
I will so move.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, seconded.
All right, thank you. The motion been made to accept the resolution as presented by staff with their findings, with the change to special condition number 3, that the language conveys a scale and texture similar to wood shake be removed. Okay, any more discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. This is DS 22-226. It's the Givens project. This is also a final design study, and it is for the demolition of a single-story residence and construction of a new single-story residence located on the southeast corner of Torres Street and Fifth Avenue in the R1 district. Can we have staff report, please?
All right, well, thank you, Chair LePage. Let's see. We're here this afternoon with the final details for the Givens project. This is a 4,000 square foot re-subdivided corner lot that's located on the corner of Torres and Fifth Avenue. The existing one-story residence is just over 1,000 square feet. And there is a detached garage that's 191 square feet. The applicant is proposing to demolish more than 50% of the existing walls. So the project does qualify as a demolition, even though portions are proposed to be retained. The new home will be slightly larger at just over 1,200 square feet. The applicant is also proposing to reconstruct the detached garage and increase it to 265 square feet. So overall, the project has a net increase of 254 square feet and will be 1,470 square feet total. So the existing home does have a non-conforming, I keep calling it north, and I think it's east. I think I did this last time as well, so I apologize. It is located in the side yard setback, and it is proposed to be retained. If for some reason during construction this wall is removed, it will need to be reconstructed at the 3-foot required setback. So the Planning Commission reviewed the concept design study in December, and there were a number of, well, a couple special conditions. The first being the volume study that has been completed, and the project did pass volume. There was another special condition about reducing the driveway width. The applicant has decided to keep the existing driveway location and the existing walls, so maintaining what's there right now. They will need to get an encroachment permit for those existing encroachments, and that's just a standard requirement. And then I'm going to walk you through these other special conditions pretty quickly. So at the concept review, we noticed when the story poles went up that the detached garage was much taller than anyone had anticipated. The applicant did modify the height of the garage at the concept hearing. And so you can see the final design of that detached garage. It has been lowered. The transom window has been removed. They've also reduced the eave depths. And staff finds that the detached garage maintains a subordinate position to the house. With respect to the lighting plan, the applicant's proposing 8 wall-mounted fixtures. They're all located at exterior doors. The fixture meets our requirements for lumen levels. And then a second fixture above the garage door is also proposed, and that will be equipped with a light bulb that again does not exceed 375 lumens. The proposed roof material is a gray gravel ballast roof. So the home does have an existing flat roof, and they're proposing to reconstruct the flat roof at 1.5 and 12 pitch. The finished materials, we did look at these at the concept review, and they have not substantially changed. So the siding is a composite straight edge shake shingle siding in light gray. The windows are proposed to be aluminum clad wood painted white. The front door is proposed to be aluminum clad wood painted in a dark gray, and the wood garage door would be painted to match. So at the concept review, we talked about the design of the horizontal fence that encloses their front patio. So there is an existing fence right now. They'd like to replace that fence with a horizontal slat fence. It was suggested that they consider a more traditional vertical fence. However, they would like to proceed with the horizontal fence. It is 6 feet tall. It would have a light brown stain. The fence is located above the street level. It's about 38 feet from the roadway, and it is screened by existing landscaping. So staff has included a condition to protect the existing landscaping or to plant new landscaping that will screen the fence just to soften any views of it that might be seen from Torres Street. If the commission finds that the fence design still is not appropriate, you could certainly modify that condition. With respect to site coverage, there's quite a bit on site right now, over 1,400 square feet. They are proposing to bring it into compliance. The major site coverage elements will be the driveway, the tire tracks for on-site parking, and then typical landings, walkways, and a generator pad. So with that, staff is recommending that you adopt a resolution accepting the final design study. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for the staff? Commissioner Delves, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Marty. Okay, would the applicant's designer or representative like to come forth and make their presentation? Oh, they're online? Oh.
We don't have any comments. Thank you.
No comments?
No comments.
Okay, thank you. That was quick. And to the point. All right, are there members of the public that would like to speak to the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, I don't see any hands up online, nobody coming forward in the chambers, so I will close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Allen, you want to begin?
Sure. So I think it was, I think I was the one that brought up the issue on the fence. The only thing that I was recommending was the fact that I thought, since this was such a charming little house and so well done, I thought it would be really cool to have like a really creative fence. I'm fine with the fence that they're proposing. I'm fine with the staff recommendations, and I think it's a cute house.
Commissioner Locke?
Sure, I missed the first hearing on this. So a couple things I want to say. This is a very conservative redo of a house, and I'm sure there are some people in our community that are definitely excited about that fact. We're not going to the biggest house that we can do for this property, so that's awesome. The fencing that you mentioned, I don't have a problem with it. It's 38 feet, 6 feet tall above grade, those kind of tall. And so I do have a concern that it is screened right now, would have to be screened going forward. Otherwise, it's just going to look like a little compound up there that you don't know what's up there. Also, I'm pleased to see that there are 2 upper canopy trees being planted as part of this project. That doesn't happen all the time. And finally, that the color palette is really nice. So I'm just kind of happy with this project and very supportive, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Delves?
Yeah, I agree. I just read the resolution. I think it's good to go. I think staff has this exactly right. I think the applicant has done a great job here, and I'm prepared to support this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Delves. And Commissioner Bolton?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good project, and I appreciate the changes the designer and the owner made to meet our requests. Generally, I don't like such solid fences, but also generally those fences are close to the road. And this is a very different situation where we're set back a significant distance. And although I definitely want to maintain the screening on that, since we have the resolution in the approval, I don't have anything else to add. I think this is great. I echo my fellow Commissioner Allen's comment about this fence. I don't find this design to be exciting, but I don't have any objection to it. It's perfectly nice, and it'll be great. And I think if we see less of it, the better.
Okay, we have a resolution from staff, which it sounds like the commission is supportive of the special conditions. So I will just ask for a motion.
I can make a motion approving this inclusive of the staff's conditions.
I can second that.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to support the resolution as presented by staff. Is there any more discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Good luck with your project. Okay. So the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. This is DS 22150. CRI on Carpenter Incorporated. This is consideration of a revised concept design study for the demolition of 4 hotel rooms at the Carmel Resort Inn and construction of a 1,965 square foot 2-story residence with a basement located on the southeast corner of Guadalupe and First. Staff report, please.
Well, thank you, Chair LePage. So just a brief recap, the Carmel Resort Inn does occupy 16 lots of record. It's located between Carpenter Street and Guadalupe with First Avenue to the north. The hotel is governed by a use permit from 1968 that allows for 25 hotel units, a manager's unit, and 31 off-street parking spaces. So the Planning Commission reviewed a concept at your meeting in, I believe, January. Lot 2 is located at the southeast corner of Guadalupe and First. It is a 4,000 square foot site. It currently has 2 cottages that are about 700 square feet in size, and they provide 4 hotel rooms as part of the larger property. So these 2 buildings are proposed to be demolished. And the applicant is proposing a 1,965 square foot 2-story residence that is inclusive of a basement and an attached garage. Again, the concept review was conducted on January 11th. The Planning Commission did accept the concept, but with conditions and also with direction to make some design changes. So here you can see a comparison of the site plans from the concept and the final. So the concept is on the left. There has been a simplification in the wall plane just west of the main entry. But otherwise, the footprint of the home largely remains the same. So some of the conditions of concept acceptance included, evaluating the building form, looking at the eave depth, reducing it, and then also kind of looking at the neighborhood context with the design. So again, original concept is on the left, the revised concept is on the right. The applicant has reduced the depth of the eaves down to 18 inches and then also incorporated wood corbels. The contemporary windows have been replaced with wood craftsman style windows with more divided lights. The Carmel stack stone veneer is now limited just to the lower floor of the residence with horizontal wood siding at the upper level and then also at the garage. The color scheme also has been changed. It's more muted and complementary rather than contrasting. And the roof pitch has been increased from 3 and 12 to 4 and 12. And the residential design guidelines do encourage roof pitches between 4 and 12 and 6 and 12. So this is an elevation view from First Avenue. This shows the front entry of the home. The original concept is to the left and the revised is on the bottom right. So you can see how the change in the application of the finished materials changed the design from a vertical orientation to more of a horizontal orientation. The flat deck where the sunroom is, there off to the right, has been changed to a partial hipped roof. The sunroom has been reduced. It's more subdued. It has significantly less glass and more wood. And then the roof form also has been simplified, so there aren't as many different roof forms as you saw at the concept. So a couple of the conditions of concept acceptance included reevaluating the fence material and the height, and then also selecting an alternative garage door design. So another horizontal wood slat fence, these are pretty popular these days, has been changed to a more traditional vertical grape stake fence. The applicant has reduced the number of stone columns and limited them to the entry and then as well as the corners. And then also the glass garage door has been changed to a solid wood door with wood panels. So some additional conditions of concept acceptance was to conduct the volume study. We are going to defer that until before final details, just pending any potential other changes to the layout of the home. Also the tree planting requirements, path light spacing, and then some other light related conditions. So this is the proposed landscape plan. They are proposing 3 upper canopy trees in the rear yard, which is what the city forester recommended. They've replaced the step wall light, which actually projected light horizontally last time. So now this is a light that actually directs the light towards the ground, so it's shielded. And they've removed the in-ground driveway light, which also kind of throws light horizontally, and they've replaced it with the same step wall light. You can also see the proposed path light fixture. That is the same from the concept review, and they have adjusted the spacing so that they're at least 10 feet apart, and there's only 3 of them. So finished materials, this is a comparison from the original concept. So you can see the change in the siding from that vertical kind of darker wood siding to a lighter horizontal siding that is more complementary to the stone. Also the metal roof was changed to, I believe that's a slate tile. And so we are asking the commission to look at this again as a revised concept. And if you accept this concept, the next step would be to come back for final details. And so with that, staff is recommending that you accept the revised concept design. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff from the commissioners? Commissioner Delves, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Marty. All right, would the applicant like to come forward and make their presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Miller. I'm the architect on the project. So last time we were in front of the commission, you guys felt that we could potentially do more traditional fenestration and materials, and you thought it would fit better into the neighborhood, so we went back and took a look at it. Any questions?
Any questions for Eric?
I have a question.
Okay.
So, Eric, so I could see that there's 8 homes being built. It's a total of 8 homes being built?
We're proposing 2 right now.
Well, yeah.
Eventually
yeah,
there will be.
And you'll be doing all 8?
I'll have to ask my client. I think I am.
Okay.
I don't
all
know.
Right.
Depends on how I do tonight, I guess.
If he passes the audition.
Yeah.
And so I mean, for lack of a better word, I feel like this could potentially lead to like death by paper cuts, but because I don't, it's hard for me to envision what is going to come in the future in order to make sure that this stays integrated. And so, like for instance, a couple questions. Are they all going to be around 1,900 square feet? Are they all going to be fenced? It just, like it starts to like form a pattern for me that I'm a little bit concerned about.
So I've never had my work referred to as death by paper cut, but that's okay. I cut my finger once. I didn't die though. So, okay, that's a good question. It doesn't matter if I do them or someone else does them. The way the rules are set up in the city, if you're doing a 2-story, you have an 18-foot plate. If you do a 1-story, you have a 12-foot plate. If you're gonna have a garage, it's gonna be on the left. It's a single car garage, or it's gonna be on the right. It's a single car garage. The only thing you can do is pull it out to the street. Have to have a 4 and 12 window. Now, obviously, you have to have traditional detailing. So no matter what you do, you're starting this, the design guidelines and the attitude of a lot of the citizens in the town, which is fine, it's starting to create a pattern that we can't build around. because it's so tightly regulated, okay? They're beautiful houses. I love the house I just designed, and I love the other one I had. But you can't say that we're going to build a house that's less than 1,600 feet because the land is too valuable. So even if 8 different architects did them, if Claudio did 2 of them and someone else did 2, you're still going to wind up with a house that fits in the design guidelines of the city of Carmel, and they're very strict, and we're all good at working with them, but that is what's going to happen there, no matter what you do, or even if they sell them to someone else, you'd still have 8 houses. I like to think that if I'm doing them, I have more control over where the windows are, how the neighbor is going to interact with the house that we just finished building, because at least I have control over all of them, so I can be more sensitive. I can adjust volume, I can, move garages around, I could, I'm working on it, and we have some good ideas about what to do. And this is a bigger item. There's a lot of design guideline regulations that is going to result in similar houses all the way across the entire city. That's why I wanted to have something that's a little bit different on the corner, but that didn't work out. So now we're back to traditional, so that's fine.
Excuse me, could you put up the first slide, please? Second slide. There we go. So, Eric, we have on our screen right now showing a concept development of multiple parcels, and it appears to me that we are starting to go through a process looking at these things where you're tearing down an existing motel project to obtain space and other utilities for new construction. And I think that I agree with my fellow commissioner that I'd like to see how this all fits together rather than coming at it from a single property to property. And I do understand that you have the right to do that, but I also think that given the response from the neighborhood at our last hearing in January over this corner property, that an overall vision of what might occur and when it might occur would be extremely helpful to the approval process. And I'll punt that off to our community development director. And
Yeah, I've been holding back. Thank you for that. So, Commissioner Locke, you're correct. They're not required to do that. You, as a commissioner, have every right to ask them for that if it makes your job easier. If it's something you think you've heard from the community that they would like to hear, you can absolutely ask an applicant to do that. We cannot make them do it. They have the right because they're all legal lots of record to develop each one individually as they go along. But I think, your request, your message to the applicant that it would be a nice thing to do is a fair thing to say.
Can I make a comment here?
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned about the Planning Commission overstepping their authority here. And personally, I have more confidence in the Planning Commission that we have the ability to look at each individual application that comes before us, and we have a process which does that. It talks about context, and that was one of the arguments against the previous design was we didn't feel it felt in the context of the neighborhood. And this architect came back with what I feel is a design which really does fit into the context. And so I am confident enough to feel like, we can review individual projects that come before us, but look at them in the context of the whole. And if we start to see a situation which is developing where it's starting to look like a tract, which is something that we're all trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid, the appearance of irregularity, because Carmel is a community of all these individual homes with individual character. And so I am confident that the process allows us to do that. And it is regulated, but it does have an intent to do that. It speaks about that. So while I am totally aware and concerned about what you're talking about, I do feel like for us to look at this project and put that type of a burden a standard on it is unfair. And also, it really, we have the ability to do this. We have the design guidelines, we have the land use documents that speak to this, and so I'm confident that we can do this. And I think what we have here tonight is an architect who listened to the community, listened to the planning commission, and came back with a revised design which does fit into the context of this neighborhood. And I think that speaks to his skill and dedication to his craft. And the two projects that he has submitted to us are quite different in character. They're both traditional, but they have different styles and different forms, and create the interest, the level of detail which reflects what we're trying to see in our community. So that's something I just wanted to say.
Can I comment?
So,
oh, sorry. Is it okay
go
if
ahead.
I comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think what you said is correct, Michael. When we came in, we had two designs. We liked both of the designs. The community didn't like the one on the corner. So, and you listened to the community. You asked me to go back and redesign it. That's perfectly fine. We're happy to go back and redesign it. We think it's a beautiful house still, but that's a good example of how each house will be looked at by your committee.
Yeah, and Eric, I wasn't in any way insinuating that this particular project came under those. I'm just saying going forward,
Yeah,
I'm
I
happy to look at our two projects this evening, move them forward, and I just think that in the bigger picture, it would be nice to see what the whole plan was.
Well, I appreciate that, Stephanie, because we have looked at the other lots. I haven't been asked by my client to, share that. But comments like the one you just made are very helpful for us because, that's been our intention all along, to really make them look different and feel different. But we are, and the only reason I said earlier that our hands are tied a little bit, because there are strict regulations in terms of volumetrics and plate heights and floor, and that's not a problem. It's just you have to work within those to go to different styles, different fenestration, fit and finish, and all that sort of thing. So there's, an option for this committee to look at every project as we submit them, and it's not within my purview to submit more than two. I have to go with what my client wants, and I'm sure he heard it tonight. So I'm, if he's interested, I'm sure he'll ask me to do so.
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions for Eric? Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, other members of the public want to come forward and speak to us about this application? This would be the time to come up. Nice to see Carol Hall.
Yes, Carol Hall. Thank you. I had the same concerns that you two had about what the whole thing will look like, especially in terms of one story versus two story. Whether they'd all be two-story or not would be one of my concerns. I'm so glad that's been brought up and discussed. Another is that I just saw about 3 features that humbly I would like to suggest are leftovers from the initial design on the corner. One is the front door, which looks more like the original design and doesn't fit, I don't think, as much into the present design. Second is the horizontal siding on the deck fence, or whatever you'd call it, railing. And the third is the windows, I believe, on the Guadalupe side that do not have the upper divisions like the rest of the windows do, but are just large panes of glass. But I think otherwise I really commend Mr. Miller for listening to the residents and making something that fits really well with the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak to the commission?
Hi, I'm Ann Bredowson. I live on Guadalupe and First. I want to commend Mr. Miller as well, that the changes is a vast improvement. It's just calmed down that whole corner by putting in a different fencing and not quite so many of the stone pillars in between. I have to count on the city that they will somehow address the street issue for parking. First Street is so narrow that you can barely pass 2 cars on it as it is. And also the center medians that they have put in on Guadalupe, which beautifies the entire street, which I don't know if they will be in the way of driveways and backing in and backing out, but I have to count on the city that they will deal with the ins and outs of the streets and the parking on the street, because we all have to park on the street. It's, you know, most people up in the residential neighborhoods need to park on at least one car on the street or in front of their homes. So I hope the city will somehow address that. But thank you, Mr. Miller, for listening. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to address the Planning Commission? Is there anyone
That's what I'm
on,
looking right now.
anybody online? Got their, I can't see.
No, I don't see any.
Hello, Mike.
Neil.
Neil Cruz.
Oh, okay, Neil. All right, go ahead, Neil.
Thank you very much to the architect, Eric Miller, for making the accommodations and changes. This really helps, and I appreciate the effort he's made. Just one thing I want to point out, and it's not really a criticism, but it's for all of us to start looking at. One of the aspects of modern style design is this perfect geometrical proportioning of everything. Notice several of the windows are exactly the same distance apart from each other. All the windows are exactly in the center of the wall plane. It's this sort of perfect geometry that you see in the placement of windows and wall configurations, that whereas in traditional, they put a window where it looked out on the view that they wanted. They weren't worried so much about the exterior coordination of window openings and doors. So it's just a comment. I really appreciate what the architect has done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, anyone else from the public? There's nobody here in the chambers. I don't see any hands going up online, so I'm going to close the public comments, open up the commission. Commissioner Delves, you want to begin?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. I really do applaud what you've done here, Eric. Sorry, Neil, are you gone?
I'm gone.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was getting feedback. Really, wow, in terms of transforming something that we were not happy with previously, even though I think we all agreed it was a pretty home. I think you really have addressed all of the objections that I had with the previous design, and in a very thoughtful way. And you've managed to keep and incorporate the positive things from your previous design, which, you know, in hindsight, we didn't elaborate on, but I think you already understood. You really took advantage of the topography and lowering the house into that topography so that it does not really appear like a two-story house. It doesn't appear like a one-story house, but you've subdued that first level, I think now quite well. And I have no further comments on suggested changes I'd like to see. To Carol's input, I think I'm fine with the door as it is. I think that's a unique feature of this home. And I think, you know, these houses, it kind of gets to the bigger thing is we got to make sure we're not going to have matchy homes all up and down this block. So I'm just going to be looking for differentiators between the homes. And I do think that this entryway, I think the horizontal fencing on the deck is another example of, I think it's things that are unique to this home. So I am prepared to support the resolution, which again, I've just looked at, and really the only condition in that resolution is a volume study. I'll just point that out to my colleagues, but really well done.
Thank you, Commissioner Delves. Commissioner Bolden, you want to make your comments?
Yeah, thank you. I'm also pleased with the changes. I appreciate the architect's efforts. They listened, and this is a good result. I don't have any real problem with the front door, since that's in my brain, since Commissioner Delves just mentioned it. I like the kind of unique aspect of it, assuming it's not some kind of crazy color or something. Generally speaking, I totally agree with and understand and support the comments that my fellow commissioners made earlier about the whole concept of master planning this piece of property. This owner has a unique opportunity to change, have a tremendous impact on the neighborhood. This doesn't happen a lot. And so from a planning point of view, I would say it would be nice to know what's coming, and it would help inform our decisions as we go along. Now, obviously, we are more than capable of making individual decisions on each property as they come before us, and we treat all these things separately anyway, and we always apply the same standards, and I don't have any concerns about getting matchy-matchy, because we'll simply prevent that from happening. But the point is still valid that if you can convince your client to support your efforts to do a master plan, that's a great idea in general. Just, it's a huge property and it has a tremendous impact, and it's just unique, and I don't see a lot of other properties like this where I'd be saying exactly the same thing. Show me another entire block you're going to remodel, and I'll make the same comment, that it would be nice to see what the entire block will look like. I totally understand that's outside of our purview to request or to require that. We can say, please, and you've heard please, but we're not going to demand anything like that. That's kind of absurd. We don't want a lawsuit from you. All we want is the best possible properties to be treated as well and individually and meet our standards, and I don't have a problem with Eric Miller Architects and their ability to do this work. Like, I'm very confident that if you were to do all of them, you could vary it enough to make us quite pleased. And I'm also very confident that if every single property was a separate architect, that we would be competent and capable of controlling the designs to the point where the community is satisfied and we meet our design requirements. So I basically don't have a lot to say about this change other than I appreciate the changes. I think it makes a big difference, and I think the architect heard the community and through us the reflection of our comments, and that this meets those requests. So I support it as written with the staff report as it is. That's it, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Bolt. Commissioner Locke.
Thank you. Eric, yes, I'm going to echo what everybody else has said. I think you've done a fantastic job of revising the plan, bringing it into context with the neighborhood, making it something that everybody's really happy with, and it was heartening to go out there and have the neighbors all pleased with what has changed. So thank you so much for doing that. Along those lines, I have to just recognize some of the things that were important in my opinion, which had to do with the divided windows. I think made a really big difference. The garage door is beautiful, but it's not full of glass. I think that's really nice. I have no problem with the horizontal deck railing. I think that is perfectly fine. It matches the horizontal siding. The fencing is a good improvement. I prefer the grape stake look or the upright look versus the horizontal look if you're trying not to close off a property. So I think that was really nice. The use of stone is nice. The colors, and again, this is my year for color, I guess. The brown and tan, the use of browns and tans on the project really bring it into the forest context, makes it much more natural looking, and I think that was a really nice move. And the only comment that I would have, and it has to do with the size of some of the doors. You've got a 9-foot door and you've got at least 3 8-foot doors, and those are kind of, again, human scale. They're big, and that to me is a little concerning, but I'm overall very pleased with what's changed, and anyway, just thank you for the revisions.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Allen, your comments.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with everything that Commissioner Locke has said, and I hope I didn't want to offend you, please. And I am very happy that the neighbors are happy and that the changes look fantastic. So I agree with everything that you said around the door size. That was one of the things that I was going to bring to our attention, because not just as the style of the front door, but the front door is 9 feet tall, and so that was just one thing that kind of stood out to me. But otherwise, I'm in favor of this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that I think the process, this is an example how the process works. And it isn't just at the staff and the commission level, it's also the community. We appreciate all your comments, all the comments that the neighbors made, the other people that are concerned about the styles of architecture that really played into this. And I think the architect took all that direction and he came back with a design which really fits the context of this neighborhood and really just is an example of the skill and the process that we have here. So like I said, I'm very confident we have the ability to preserve the character of Carmel by this process, which we've created and we're working on. We have the new revised design guidelines coming up for review very soon, and everybody in the community really has been active in that, and that's what it takes to keep the character of the community. So I want to acknowledge everybody's work on this. So we have a resolution which is pretty straightforward. There's just one draft recommendation which just has to do with the volume study, and that's pretty standard because we wait to do that. So do we have well, I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution as presented by staff for the concept, approval of the concept.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion?
No, thank you.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, that brings us to our last item. Public hearings tonight. It's another design study. It's DS 22-151. It's the same applicant, and this is a final design study, not concept, for project located on. It's located on Dolores Street. Excuse me, Guadalupe. Yeah, I'm having a little trouble here reading this. Need to blow this text up a little. That's what I need to do. Yes, this next. We all know where it is. We know who the applicant is. But anyway, yeah, this is a new house. It's 1,995 square foot, two-story residence with a basement located on Guadalupe Street, 2 southeast of First Avenue. We have staff report. Took me a while to get through that.
Thank you, Chair LePage. So yes, this is a final design study for Lot 4, which is to the south of Lot 2. Again, it's a 4,000 square foot site. Currently, the lot is primarily asphalt driveways and some landscaping. The applicant is proposing just under 2,000 square feet. It's a 2-story residence with a basement and a detached garage. The concept was accepted on January 11th with some conditions. So the volume study, I actually just got the results back just before the meeting, and the project did pass volume. So check that box. Staff had also included a condition to do some exploratory digging to see if nearby tree roots might interfere with the new driveway. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get that accomplished before the city forester's departure. So rather than delay the project, we've just included that condition to be done before issuance of building permit, I believe. The applicant has also lowered the garage height by 6 inches just to stay closer to the existing grade. And then we'll go through some of these other conditions really quickly. So the project is required to provide 3 upper canopy trees. The applicant is proposing 2 24-inch redwoods in the rear yard and a 24-inch cedar in the front yard. There was a special condition to also identify right-of-way landscaping, and so they've updated the landscape plan to show 21-gallon manzanita plants in the right-of-way, along with a 5-gallon dwarf mugo pine. I don't know how to say that. Great. And so this is a dwarf variety, so 3 feet tall and wide is the mature growth of that. There was another special condition about looking at the plate height. There was just one section of the building that you see here along the south elevation that had exceeded the plate height. So the applicant is proposing to do some light grading, and instead of doing lowering the grade as much as originally proposed, they're going to maintain more of that existing grade, and the project meets the plate height requirement without any substantial redesign. With respect to site coverage, the applicant's proposing around 367 square feet. They're allowed up to 556. Site coverage elements include the entry porch, the patio area for a barbecue, and then standard doorway landings, walkways, the fence columns, and then a very minimal driveway. The lighting plan includes 4 path lights. So this has been updated to reflect the required 10-foot spacing. The path light has a raw copper finish and emits 125 lumens. And then the path lights were also reduced down from 8 to 4 in achieving that required spacing. So finished details are the same as what we saw at the concept hearing. It's painted horizontal siding with a brick wainscot, a slate tile roof, wood windows and doors, and then a wood garage door with divided light glass panels along the top. And with that, staff is recommending that you approve the final design study. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Question for staff and the commissioners?
Hey, Marnie, I have a question. So on the front door, it's depicted in that picture as being like 2 doors, but then in the plans, it looks like it's 1 door. I just wondered what's the actual front door look like?
Maybe the architect
Great
can answer
question.
that.
Okay.
We can have
Yeah,
the
yeah.
architect answer that. Do you have any other questions?
I don't have the plans.
No, I'm good.
How about
Sorry.
Commissioner Dells? Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, would the applicant like to come forward?
Yeah, so on this sheet, these are pictures of other projects that we've done that are similar. And our point was we'd have a wooden door with a transom window. Gotcha. This has 2, but it's, just a matter of actually designing the door.
It's a single door.
It's a single door. It's a good question. Do you, anything else? Thank you.
Any questions for Eric?
Well, I have a question for you, Eric. Yeah. Please. I think I know the answer. I saw a slate on the corner lot roof, and that was a multicolor, and I see
Right,
a solid dark slate on this one. Is that just correct?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we're having a hard time finding roofing material that
Yes.
we can use.
This is a common
We
theme.
really can't use shingles, shakes, it's a problem.
No, absolutely.
So you guys had that discussion earlier, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're hoping the design guidelines revision will help us with this.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any members of the public that would like to make comments regarding this application? I don't see anybody in the chambers. Anybody online?
Yes.
We got Nancy? Have your hands up? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you, oh, okay. I just have a question with regard to the garage placement. Is that, I thought there was guidance to push garages back past the front property line. So I'm just needing to understand what our guidelines say and if this aligns to those. So that's just a question.
You want to answer that, Marnie?
So this project does include a detached garage in the front setback. So there's a very minimal separation from the front property line. But
it's okay
yeah.
in our current model, right?
Correct.
And that has to meet certain standards which staff analyzed in their report.
Yes, and I apologize. I went through those in the concept review and did not revisit them for final details, but it does meet all the requirements for being in the front setback.
So let me just bolt onto that a little bit. So yeah, our current municipal code allows for garages in the front setback, but that's effectively like an entitlement or a permit, if you want to call it, that the planning commission has to grant. So when we have someone proposing to put a garage in the front setback, our current design guidelines and zoning code talk about detached garages being in the front setback to create a diversity among the streetscape. What the analysis that staff does and brings to the planning commission for consideration is it creating an unsafe situation? Are there already an abundance of garages in the front setback along the street? And so like Marnie said, that analysis was provided at the preliminary details hearing. I'm looking at Marnie right now, that we did recommend that the planning commission approve that garage in the front setback, and we do feel that the traffic impacts will be minimal, correct, Marnie? Okay, yeah, she said correct on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and another point is detached garages are a character of Carmel's architectural history, so that's one of the reasons why Carmel, the guidelines has supported those with the particular standards that they have to meet, which staff did provide that in the concept analysis. So thank you. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to the Planning Commission? Neil, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mike. Much better. This to me feels like Carmel, and I really appreciate that. So just one comment I wanted to make. I see a solid glass door and 2 large glass windows on the front elevation with no panes. And then I see a few panes on the upper windows as we go up. And then as I go around the building, I see no panes at all. They're all just open windows. And I think even if you look at the elevations without the panes, it actually appears as though the elevation has holes in it or caves in it. If you just look at that elevation and you get your first emotional reaction to it. So I just wanted to encourage pane windows on the rest of the house. And this is, by the way, actually science from the work of the function of windows, a reappraisal, building science. Thomas Marcus, windows which are broken up make for more interesting views. And this is a very interesting psychological perspective on windows that is not known. People always assume a window is preferred if it does not have panes. In fact, there is evidence to suggest that there are advantages to having panes in the windows. Again, a good feature of traditional architecture. So I would like to see the other windows paned. But I like this. This is a Carmel house, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to make some comments regarding this application? Okay, nobody in the chambers, nobody online, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission.
Mr. Chair, did you want to give the applicant an opportunity for any rebuttals in case they had some?
Oh, do you need some time for rebuttal?
If you go to this, the idea is that there is some breakup. It's not panes, it's more interesting than that. It's the separation of some windows, but then there's a transom above with a breakup, and then the lower one's just a standard panel. So it's the fenestration can be more interesting than just getting aluminum clad wood window and all with panes. So we're trying to make a differentiation here and make it more interesting. And as we go down the street, things like pulling that garage out, Michael, that's exactly right. We wanted to break up the garage on the left or the garage on the right. So that's one of the tools that the design guidelines gives us. And I think the fenestration, even in a traditional sense, doesn't always have to have the same window, which is a pane window. It could have a broken up window, it could have a transom, it could have panes. I'm just trying not to make them all look the same. So thank you.
Eric, are those transom windows in the rooms that have higher ceilings?
Some are, and then sometimes the main window is just lower and the head is, the top of the transom. So sometimes we'll do a 6/8 door and put a small transom on top to make it more interesting than just having a, so.
So this is kind of a craftsman style house. Forgive me if I wasn't quite following what you were saying there. But, so your reasoning for not having the transom divided window on the other windows is what?
So because I don't want all the windows to be the same in the building, some of the windows will be just standard windows, some will have a transom, and some of the transoms will have mullions and muttons. And so the idea is that as we develop the project, and we did a window schedule for you, we don't want them all to be the same. We don't want all the windows on all the houses we do in town to be just a 3x5 wood window with all panes. Some will be, but having some differentiation there to me makes a difference, especially when you're using mahogany for trim and that sort of thing. It starts to make it more like furniture than a window. So just some design freedom, I guess, there is what we're looking for.
So these are proposed to be mahogany sash windows?
Some are mahogany, yes. Well, no, the trim is mahogany.
The trim,
and the
not
window
what's the sash being proposed?
The window will be a wood, but I'm not sure it's going to be mahogany.
We haven't. This is just concept, but this is final.
This is final.
Yeah. So
the wood.
Is that
there'll
specified?
Be wood windows with mahogany trim.
Wood windows.
Wood windows with.
But they're going to be painted
trim.
wood or stained wood or.
They'll be painted wood windows with mahogany trim.
So the
just
species.
sash.
The species isn't really an issue.
Yeah, and so we're just trying to make a house that has some differentiation between the one next door and the one we're going to build down the street. So, and there's style changes that we can make as we go down the street. So.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question since Eric's right here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Number 7 on sheet A7.1. Is that truly representative of what this window is going to look like?
Number 7.
A7.1.
Yeah, so this is the trim will be like that.
That's what I'm asking.
And the
right.
sash will be wood but painted.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric. Okay. Any more comments from the public? Okay, I'm going to close the public comments. Open it up to the commissioners. Did staff have any more comments? Okay. All right. Okay, Commissioner Bolton, you got your mic coming down.
I'm already ready.
I'm going to let you slip right in.
Yeah, basically I support this project wholesale. I think it's a good design. I think it's a nice differentiation between this one and the one on the corner. They are not similar. And I understand and appreciate Mr. Cruz's comments about the windows, but this is an example of exactly what Carmel wants. More creativity. The architect made the right point. We don't want a whole bunch of small divided light windows in every single house. And these windows have enough interest and architectural fenestration that they're not going to just be a big open pane of glass, which is the concern, and it's a valid concern, and I share it. They're also not especially large windows. We don't have 4 by 8 foot windows with no divisions. We have smaller windows and transoms and heavy wood fenestration around the windows, and all of that goes together to make a coherent statement design-wise, and I feel like the entire project is a coherent statement design-wise, and I don't see any real objections. I support it as it is and with the staff's comments.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bolton. Commissioner Locke?
Yeah, there's one big window.
It's a bay window.
No, in the hallway, in the stairway, there's a window that's 5 by 9.
Oh,
I think that one's too big. So
making a lie
it looks out on your neighboring property in a house that doesn't exist yet. And I think that one needs to be reduced in size. And that's
on the north elevation?
Yeah, in the north elevation.
Right there on this stairwell?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, your point about the neighbor is well taken.
Yeah, and since they don't have neighbors right now, we have to think about those future neighbors. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that window otherwise, though. Okay. My statement stands. It's not oversized. It's appropriate scale with the transom in it, and I think it's a good-looking window.
Yeah,
but the neighbor is an excellent point.
And other than that, I agree with all of your comments. And Eric, I think this is a nice project. It fits in nicely, and I mentioned that last month or in January, whenever it was. And yeah, I support the project. Other than I think that one window needs to be reduced in size.
Okay, Commissioner Allen.
I'm going to go along with my fellow commissioners and agree completely. And I just want to say how much I love and appreciate the quality and the materials that you've used, because really, I mean, I love how it differentiates from other projects that we've seen, and then also from obviously the house next door. So anyway, yeah, I approve.
And Commissioner Dels.
Thank you. I have nothing to add. I agree with my fellow commissioners.
Okay. So regarding that stairwell window, staff, there hasn't been any, are there any, that's facing north, so that's facing towards a new project, right? And there's no overlap for view issues or?
Hard to tell, it's bedroom upstairs.
Yeah, you're correct, Mr. Chair. We don't have a house there yet. It's not been built, so we can't say for certain what the view impacts would be. You know, if the commission feels that the window's too big, you could just,
Well,
add a condition.
we have a proposed concept,
Yeah,
so we can see the house to the north.
yeah.
I mean, you know, I think, I mean, I know I realize it's not there, but I just.
Is it looking out on the north or the south?
Pardon?
It looks directly into their dining area and then a
Designer?
bedroom area.
Yeah, Eric, why don't you come forward so we can just get that question answered? Seems like you're the most obvious person to answer. You designed both these houses.
Well, actually, I think it's a good
Yeah.
catch, because we didn't catch that. So I would make the window smaller by making it, raising the sill up.
The one
So
on
to
this
me-
project.
Yeah, and I'd like to say to the planning commission, one of the great things I think about a commission like this is it's a design development tool for all of us. So the public gets to look at the project, you guys get to look at the project. We look at it so much that, you know, sometimes we can miss things. Staff is always very helpful. So for me, it's just part of the whole process of design. So I think it was a good thing, and so we will make
That's
an
recorded,
adjustment to
yeah.
that. If we can just work with staff on that, that'd be great.
Okay, great, thank you.
We're pulling up the other, I have the other plans right here, yeah.
Well, it sounds like Eric's acknowledged that he's
Yeah, that one.
gonna make the window a little smaller.
I'll bring the sill up more.
Yeah, bring the sail up and
Put a
I like the way
It's
the
reasonable.
transoms interplay with
Yeah, no,
the
I'll keep
shape.
the transoms.
Yeah, the transoms
I'll
look
raise
great.
the sill because it's in a stair, and I'll put a vertical right there to make the two lower pieces, I think, would look better, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I think everybody made their comments. Anybody else have any comments after that last change, proposed change? We can put that in the special conditions. I think there's been great discussion on this, and I really appreciate the architect's input and abilities, and also acknowledging that the process works. That's what we're trying to do here. So, we have a resolution, I was looking at it there a minute ago.
The bottom's just
There's a few
Yeah, you don't want to look into that.
well, actually, not many special conditions, actually. Am I on the right one here?
Yeah.
Make sure I'm on, there's 3 special conditions. Okay, so the special condition number 32, I think we can take that out because it's already, staff already acknowledged it meant the volume study, right? So we just remove that. And then, so basically we just have 2 special conditions, which are the acknowledgement of approval and exploratory digging. And then we'll add a special condition that the architect will come back with a revised design for the stair as per his outline. So I'll make that motion, unless anybody else
I'll
wants.
second that.
Okay, so we have the motion made. Any more discussion?
No, it's great.
Okay, roll call, please.
Marnie, do you want to add something?
Oh, do you want to add something?
Well, when you say bring back, are you okay with staff?
No, staff, so it
Okay.
can be done at staff level.
Okay.
Staff the architect will, when I meant bring back, the architect will work with staff to bring a revised design for the staircase window. Okay? All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Bolton,
Yes.
Commissioner Delves,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair LePage.
Yes, the motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Okay, that concludes the public hearings on our agenda this evening. Next item on the agenda is the director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just like today's evening, my report's pretty brief. Again, thank you for a wonderful planning commission. I think, Mr. Chair, you were right on when you said this is the process at work. I mean, when I'm out in the community talking to people and, folks have concern about maybe some stuff from the past or whatever, I said, rest assured that the planning commission's working on your behalf right now. And I hold up meetings like this and specific projects show the evolution of things like the one on the corner. So that was a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out. A couple updates. We'll see you all in 7 days, the 15th of March. We're going to have a public workshop on the first draft of wireless ordinance, which at that point will have been out for about a month. So we're soliciting feedback from the community. We're hoping a lot of people show up. I know we're going to have, we have some good turnout already, just some comments that we've been provided with. And just to remind everyone, this is not a decision-making meeting. It's not even a recommending meeting to the city council. We're just trying to get feedback. We know that the first draft is going to need a redraft at some point, at some level. We're sure we didn't get it exactly perfect. Hopefully we got close, but we're still looking for that feedback and then redrafting and coming back to you again. Along the lines of big things out in the world, we talked about it a couple times today already. The design guidelines first draft is still out in the world. We will be coming to the Planning Commission pretty soon. We're going to conduct a community meeting, which we're going to notice in such a way that, you know, the commission and the council can come if you want, and then we'll, you know, come to the commission if you want for a more specific meeting with you all to get feedback on that first draft. Much like the wireless ordinance, it's a first draft only. We're in information gathering phase right now, so we'll collect that feedback and then redraft. So far from over, nothing that's out on the street right now is a final draft by any means. Yep. Reminder that the city is now operating under AB 2449. That's the one replaced after 361 went away. So that's why Commissioner Delves, he had Just Cause, he's virtual, you get 2 a year. So if you have any questions that as we go along, please let me know and I can help facilitate that. But basically we're trying to be in person as much as we can these days. So this is great to have everybody at the dais. And then just a little horn toot. Our last round of boxes went out about 2.5 weeks ago for our scanning project. So after those are done here in about 2 weeks, every property file in the city will be digital and available on our GIS map. Yeah, we're
Brandon,
excited about that.
I have a question for you.
It's a lot
Sure.
of work.
When you're trying to access individual records on a property,
Mhm.
I know, you know, I have not been able to access records.
Okay.
So maybe that's something you can put out a little tutorial or
Sure.
something.
Sure.
Yeah, because
I mean, we got a couple
well, I've
minutes.
gone to
What-
the GIS site and
Uh-huh.
then clicked on stuff, and I know there are documents in the property file, and I'm
Mhm.
seeing nothing showing up.
And so it could be, so this last tranche was almost 115 bankers boxes full of files. So there could be you clicking on one that hasn't been scanned yet.
Yeah, theoretically, they should probably have been in there. That's
You think, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll
Well, I'll
follow
connect
up
with
on
you.
it.
Yeah, let's try the one that you're trying. But that's one of the things we're going to do when this is all done. There's going to be a more major rollout with like a little YouTube video tutorial. Because really, it's hard to explain to somebody. We really need a video that shows a mouse going and clicking and all that stuff. Yeah. But we're excited about that. And then we're going to move up to the next phase, which is up at Vista Lobos, which is the site that the city owns up there. It used to be a lumber yard. We have a little storage room full of all of the old rolled plans, some of them back to the 20s, 30s, 40s, and they're just sitting there in a non-temperature controlled room. So we're scanning those next, and those will end up linkable to the GIS map as well. Yep. And that's all I got, unless you all have something you'd like me to tell you about. Questions?
Anybody? Okay. All right. Well,
All right.
that concludes the meeting. I want to thank everybody tonight. It was a great meeting. So that we are adjourned.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Monty.